Hello everyone, and welcome to Cabin Fever Crochet. I'm Helene, and I sincerely hope all of you are doing really well today. Well, I myself am feeling quite accomplished, coming back with something concrete for you after a much needed extended break. So I am backtracking a little bit, catching up, and I cannot believe it's been 3 months already that I have wanted to update my 2022 Lunar Dreams Half Moon Curved Crochet Shawl on the written pattern. And this is now updated, available in my Etsy shop. Now the pattern itself is the same with one correction in here, but with some feedback I received and going over this pattern again since it has been a while, in one particular area on the row 11 repeat, which is every 4th row, some have been having some difficulty understanding, and I can see why based on my kind of overly long kind of convoluted explanation of that. I'm just going to go over this just briefly to show you some of the changes, and mostly I just cleaned it up, made it the instruction more concise and hopefully a lot more understandable, and I have condensed that, and also some of the tips throughout as well. And those areas where you have that repeat section within one row, I have put that in bold, outlined some areas so it really pops and stands out for the rest and easier to keep track as you're crocheting along, as I've done with all of my more recent patterns over the last couple of years. So here's an example. And so I think it's just a lot more cleaner and easier to go over. The updated version is already in my Etsy shop, so for all of you who have already purchased this pattern, it's paid for. You just go back in and you can download the updated version, so you will have that too. And I will leave the link to the tutorial here in the drop down show notes description section, along with the link to my Etsy shop. And as with all of my written patterns, I always include a link to my free tutorial here on YouTube within the pattern itself. And I have also added this mini tutorial today going over row 11 with you. And if you haven't seen this before, the link to the tutorial will also be in the drop down description section. And I worked this up. You can see a little bit of the sparkle in this very soft and squishy yarn. I think is unfortunately discontinued, but you can still find it different places, probably Etsy, eBay, and so forth. Lion brand Sunset Nights, and it has sequins, very small paillettes in there that are not scratchy, cannot feel them at all. This is a different colorway, but I just pulled this out to show you what it looks like. I think they had about a half a dozen colors. This is Zanzibar, and this I believe is Ayers Rock, A-Y-E-R-S, Ayers Rock. All right, and then my hat, that's what I want to tell you, because inevitably if I wear something that I've made and someone asks, so now you have it, the information for this too. And I will also include the tutorial link in the description section. And then I do have a written pattern for this as well in my Etsy shop. And I just finished this and I worked it up in Lion brand Heartland yarn, the color Badlands. And it is still one of my favorites to make. It's customizable for different head sizes, from ladies small up to men's extra large. And I have typically used an eye hook for this yarn, but I know this yarn stretches and my head has shrunk a little bit along with my height. It happens with age, but I am still claiming my height regardless. But I did go down to an H hook, and it seemed a little bit snug at first, but after wearing it a little bit and just giving it a gentle little stretch, it fits perfectly. I absolutely love it. And what worked out nice with the smaller hook size is it made the brim even more structured. And for those of you who have made it You might notice that the band is a little bit different. So this is something that you can do if you want to also. Instead of the rounds of single crochet for the band, I worked front post, back post, half double crochet, about 3 rounds of that, and you can adjust. You can do 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, depending on your head size and shape, however long or small or short it is. All right, well, let's go ahead. I'll go over row 11 one more time with you with the swatch that I made, and I really hope that it helps and makes a lot more sense for you. And to begin with a bit of an overview, refresher from where we start and where we go with that. So whether you have already worked this or are doing so for the first time, hopefully this is a better clarification of that row 11 for everyone, where we work our V-stitches and V-stitch increases. Okay, so this pattern consists of a series of setup rows followed by a 4-row repeat, rows 10, 11, 12, and 13. You have 7 points of increases total, 1 on each end, 1 coming down the center, and 2 on each side of center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first set of stitch markers, this is row 7. I would leave those in until I work my next increase row of the V-stitch increases, which is row 11, but I've left that in for now so you have more of a visual of how each V-stitch increase row aligns with the row worked previously. So I've worked my next set of repeats, and so I will be working together here the next row 11. All right, and because this is a curved shape and how I designed it and really how it worked out, to maintain that curved shape without visible points of increases and to prevent too much fullness in any one area of those, as your work grows on each new row 11 repeat, your V-stitch increases, the new placement will be a little offset from your previously worked increase 4 rows below. And you will see that offset more and more as your work grows. Okay, because right now we work, as I mentioned, the regular V-stitches followed by V-stitch increases. Okay, and right now we only have a couple in between each. As your work grows, the more regular V-stitches you will have in between. And then the way this pattern is that with each new 4-row repeat and more of those regular V-stitches, the next placement is going to wind up being a little offset. So when you're working to the right of center, your new V-stitch increase placement will be leaning a little to the right, and coming down the other side to the left of center, your new placement will be a little to the left. So I'm going to work row 11 with you so you can see what's happening, because it's going to be more visible from the previous row 11 than it was from row 7, and then we'll take a look at those after we've worked this new row 11 so you can compare and really see the difference to give you a better sense of that section. And just to quickly, as a refresher also for row 10, that is our V-stitch and all single crochet row, all V-stitches, all single crochets all the way around with the set of 3 single crochets going across the center. Okay. So to begin row 11, as always, you will chain 4, counts as the first double crochet, and a chain 1 that sets up for our first V-stitch increase. Okay, so now you work a V-stitch into the beginning V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, which completes our first V-stitch increase. And now you work one regular V-stitch into every single crochet and every V-stitch up to just before you stop, just before where your stitch marker is from your previously worked V-stitch increase 4 rows below. And be careful now on row 10. That's an easy place to make a mistake. When you're working into the V-stitches, don't accidentally place an extra V-stitch in between the chain 2 space on each side of the V-stitches, or accidentally work a V-stitch increase where there's not supposed to be one. Okay, so go ahead, work your regular V-stitches in every single crochet and every V-stitch up to just before the V-stitch increase below. Okay, now I'm going to stop just a little bit short of that, and this is where I want to show you, because it's the offset, the leaning stitch is much more visible now. So what you can do, you can eyeball it, you can take a finger or sticks, a hair stick, pencil. Here is my previously worked V-stitch on row 11. You can see that is worked into one of the V-stitches below from row 10, just as we are going to be doing now. So I place my stitch marker in that middle double crochet of the V-stitch increase, and when you're working to the right of center, you might have to just rotate your work a little bit so it's kind of straight up, and you can just look and see where that lands at the top. Now this stitch first increase on the right of center kind of lands right in between the V-stitch to the left and the single crochet to the right. And when that starts to happen and the V-stitch increase does not align directly into a V-stitch, you're going to work it into the first V-stitch to the right. So when working to the right of center, you place your V-stitch increase into a V-stitch that most closely aligns with the previously marked V-stitch increase. That's 4 rows below. And if that V-stitch is offset from where it aligns to one side or the other, then you place your next V-stitch increase into a V-stitch that leans to the right. You do that for each of these 2 increases to the right of center. And then when you work around and you go to the left of center, you will be leaning to the left. So your next V-stitch increase, you can see where that previously marked V-stitch increase, that is right aligns to the single crochet. We're not working into single crochets, we're working into V-stitches, so you will place that into the V-stitch that leans to the left. And that keeps a very smooth increase section by staggering them a little bit, offsetting, and eliminates that visible point of increase because it's not always in the same place. You're offsetting it a little bit each time so it keeps that rounded shape. And as I've mentioned before, there is nothing wrong with the visible point of increase. I have shawls I've made a design with them for that purpose, and that gives a really neat look too. But for this particular project, this is what I was going for, and that's just how it worked out. All right, so let's work that together. I've already determined that this V-stitch increase aligns more with the single crochet, so we're going to place that into the V-stitch offset or leaning to the right of the stitch marker. Okay, so that's where our new placement is for the V-stitch increase. And now is where you then take out your stitch marker from the previously worked row 11 and place it into the center of the V-stitch increase. And now this new placement is your guide going forward. And you can adjust your placement for the new repeat, each new row 11 accordingly, leaning to the right, going up to center, and to the left, coming down the other side. The most important aspect is to be consistent and be sure your increase placements are worked into the same position on both sides of center so that both sides mirror each other. And I'm going to show you that after I finish this row, exactly how they will line up. All right, so then now after working that increase, go ahead and work the regular V-stitches into every single crochet and every V-stitch up to just before the next increase placement. So again, here I come up to the next stitch marker for 4 rows below and it aligns again with a single crochet, so I place that V-stitch increase into the first V-stitch to the right, offset or leaning to the right. And that is all there is to row 11. Okay, and again, I'm going to work my regular V-stitches in every single crochet and every V-stitch up to my next increase. Okay. And that will be in the center of my work, and that is the one correction that I was speaking of. It looks like when I uploaded this pattern that I somehow omitted the center increase. So here we are with the center 3. Okay. There's a V-stitch, there's the middle single crochet, and that's where I'm placing a V-stitch increase. And then another regular V-stitch in the third single crochet of the 3. I'm going a little faster on that because that's pretty straightforward. And that portion is correctly shown in the tutorial. You know, it works out either way. This will just give a little bit more fullness at the bottom there. And now working across the left of center, place 1 regular V-stitch in every V-stitch and every single crochet up to just before where the V-stitch increase is from your previously worked row 11. And again, you will see this one is lining up in between the V-stitch and the single crochet, so that placement will go in that V-stitch that leans to the left. And again, as your work grows, the more regular V-stitches you have in between each V-stitch increase might be even a little more offset with each subsequent row 11, especially compared to row 7 and your first row 11. Whereas row 7, you will see they line up a lot more up to row 11, and then after the first row 11, when you start repeating your row 11 like you saw on this row, how much it leans. So if I were to go straight up in a line, it would be here. So we lean to the right. Okay, whereas the row below, here's row 7, here's row 11 where I took that stitch marker out. You can see it really aligns well there, but in the next increase, it's more offset. And now here, it's even a little more offset. Okay. So that is what I wanted to show you, and I hope this makes more sense and is more helpful. All right, so here we go. Finish my second single crochet, the V-stitch in the single crochet rather, and work the increase in the V-stitch leaning to the left from the previously worked increase row. And here we are. Now we're on the left, so you want to make sure you lean to the left. So again, take a look at your work. You can see, all right, well, this one is going up again now in between the single crochet and the V-stitch to the right. So we want to place that in the first V-stitch offset or leaning to the left. Okay, I just finished that row off camera. Now I move up my stitch markers, which I forgot to do, into the new increase for the new row 11. So just do that after you make your stitch. Go ahead and do that. So I'm going to ignore these for now. All right, and as mentioned, the most important thing is be consistent with your placement of the 2 increases on each side of center so that they are in the same position and that your work is even on both sides and mirror each other, which you can see when I fold this in half. There is the center, and you can see how the stitch markers, 2 on each side, how they all 4 line up with each other. All right, so that is that. I hope it was helpful for you, and hope you'll come back and see me again next time. All right, well, take good care, everyone, and have fun making your shawl. It's really nice when how it works up and curve shape fits the body really well. Makes great gifts too. All right, until next time, have a great rest of your day or evening, and I will see you again soon.